I'd like to call this meeting to order. The clock on the wall is about 3 minutes slow. Township Clerk Lauren Kirkman, please read the statement.
This is the meeting of the Vernon Township Council for Monday, November 10th, 2014. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 8th, 2014, and was posted at the building in the posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kadish.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Here.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Here.
Council President Lynch.
Here. Will the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 1002 and the VFW Post 3776 please present the colors? Please rise. Cub Scout Pack 404, please lead us in the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for all military service personnel who paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our freedoms and liberty. Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Cub Scout Pack 404 for being here this evening. Also, I'd like to say thank you to the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 1002, as well as our own VFW Post 3776. 8441. Where'd 3776 come from? Why'd you give me that number?
That's right.
I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll never do it again.
I apologize. Okay, we do have a few proclamations. Would the members of the VFW 8441 and the Vietnam Vets 1002 please come forward? Mayor.
Gentlemen, whereas the freedoms we enjoy as Americans have been purchased and maintained at a high price throughout our history, and whereas since the establishment of the original 13 states, Americans have been willing to fight and die to preserve their individual rights as guaranteed in the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Whereas we owe a great debt to those who have served in defense of this nation, and whereas throughout generations their sacrifices have preserved our unique form of government dedicated to human rights and respect for the individual. And whereas for many, that sacrifice has ended in permanent injury or death, yet their spirit remains in the continued preservation of our freedoms and the promise of liberty established as an example for all the oppressed persons of the world. And whereas in honor of these dedicated men and women, we pledge our continued defense of our nation so that their sacrifice will stand before the entire world as a tribute to the spirit and determination of a people dedicated to the principles of freedom and democracy. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Vernon Township Council do hereby urge all our citizens to honor our veterans, rededicate themselves to the preservation of our liberties under the Constitution. Given under my hand in these free United States of the Township of Vernon, State of New Jersey, on this 10th day of November, 2014, which have caused the seal of the Township of Vernon to be affixed and have made this proclamation public, Brian Lynch, Council President, Victor J. Murata, Mayor. Gentlemen,
Thank you very much again. You're not getting any.
And tomorrow's a special day. We won't forget
Would be composed.
We'll be out there. Great.
Looking for donations.
Might be the
Tomorrow's
right word.
Veterans Day, when you see them,
I know.
stop and donate.
Point out the bill.
I do have to say that today is a very special day, too, because today is the 239th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. So happy birthday to all the Marines in the audience tonight. Right, Rory Weary? He doesn't look bad for 239, does he? Okay. At this time, will Chief Mills and Captain Moran please come forward with Mr. John Miller and Mr. Jim Lucas.
Chief, pleasure.
Get a shave, will you, please?
Jim, a pleasure. John, my pleasure.
We're here tonight to do a positive thing. An event happened on October 20th in our township. It involved a couple people who are currently civilians, and it was witnessed by Captain Moran at the Minerals Spa on October 20th. Mr. James Lucas, who's a retired member of the NYPD, had collapsed in cardiac arrest and was unconscious. Fortunately for him, Mr. John Miller, who's a retired member of the New York Fire Department, was present at the same time. And Mr. Miller's actions of revive Mr. Lucas, and we're here tonight to be able to celebrate that and to congratulate Mr. Miller on a job well done. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for the town of Vernon for this. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for what you've done.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, congratulations, and Mr. Lucas, congratulations for your success here.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief and Captain.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to open the floor to public comments?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Murphy. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Wetzel. Please, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The floor is open for anyone that wish to speak.
My name is Howard Greenblatt. I am a veteran of 6 years of the armed forces.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'm 73 years old. I've lived in Vernon for about 20 years. I've paid basic taxes of about $4,000 roughly. It was a little bit less. So that's $80,000. I've paid about $2,000 in school taxes, which is about $40,000. I have no children in school. I use none of these things. I am a tennis player. I am forced to go to Pine Island. I am forced to go to Sparta. I am forced to go to Warwick. I have to drive all over the place to play tennis. Vernon High School has 8 beautiful tennis courts, which most of the time are not used. But when they are used, they don't use all of them. I don't know what the budget is for your recreational, but I think a 73-year-old person deserves some kind of recreational facility. If you don't have the money, hopefully you do. I don't know what, there's also this Green Acres thing that I'm not that familiar with, but there is funds available for people to play tennis. Besides the facility at Vernon High School, well, at Vernon High School, I'd like to be able to get 1 court to be allowed for people like myself to use it during the week, so I don't have to drive all over like a beggar to play tennis. There is also a tennis court, and you must have some kind of reciprocation with, not Franklin, what's the town before Franklin? Right over here on 23 and 94.
Hamburg, Hardiston?
Hamburg. There is a tennis court there that is falling apart, so it doesn't have to be rebuilt. Maybe you can get a reciprocal agreement to help fix up that tennis court. There are also 4 beautiful tennis courts in Highland Lake. They're private, but if they're not being used during the week, I'm not asking for the weekends, because on the weekends I can play at Vernon High School, I can play at Walk Hill. Maybe the town, knowing somebody there, could work out some arrangement that we could use one of those courts. I know you know Mr. Mulvihill. I'm sure you all know him very well. Right near his office are 1 or 2 tennis courts that are run down. So I'm not asking the town to build, I would like the town to build it in the recreational center. But there are courts available there to be, that could be maybe worked out some kind of an arrangement that we could use those courts. Also, the old school, the old mountain, before you get to Highland Lakes, there was a condo development, and I don't know the name. They had 3 or 4 tennis courts there, 1 clay and 2 regular. I mean, something can be worked out somewhere if somebody wants to try. I have many people who play tennis. I'm not a singles player. I play in doubles. And again, I don't think it's, I just think that it would be fair if we had some kind of recreational facility for seniors to play tennis. And I don't think that going to the Vernon High School on the end courts would disrupt anything there and do any problems. So I'm requesting somebody get back to me with, let me know what your financial arrangements are and what could be done to get me a tennis court so I don't have to drive all over the county and New York to play tennis. I think that's about all.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Excuse me, you say you play weekends at the high school.
We play, you're allowed to play when school is not in session. We play either at Walk Hill or we play at Vernon. You can also play at night at Vernon during the summer, and there are lights there. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous courts. They're not being used. They're not being used. You have, if you don't want to spend the money, or if you don't have it in your budget, which I think you probably have it in your budget, but if you don't have it, something can be worked out somehow if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, I guess I'm out of luck, and I'll just be a vagabond driving all over the place.
No, I don't think it's that. Mr.
Pardon me?
Greenblatt. I don't think it's that, but I would suggest if the courts are available, you might find a more receptive, not a more receptive ear, but a receptive ear if you visit the Board of Education.
They're not going to do anything for a person like me alone. I mean, that's like going to City Hall and asking them, you know, help me out. If you people go, it's a little different. If the mayor goes, if you go, if you care, then I don't think that there should be such, I mean, there are courts around that could be, that are not being used.
Yeah, but I would ask you to explain your plight to them, and perhaps, you know, maybe there's a security reason why they.
They tell me that during the school hours, if you're not a student, you can't play here. That's what they told us that. The courts are empty. They only use them for a couple of hours, and they don't use all 8 courts. They use 6 courts. The end 2 courts wouldn't bother anybody. If you wanted to, you could put a back door on the back court for a few $100s and let us play there. It wouldn't disturb anybody. And if you go there to use it, we went there one day when it was raining, and the courts where we went to were taken, so we went over there. We got notices on the car. You can't play here unless you're, you know, unless you're a student. So it's not, I don't think it's such a really major deal. I mean, I'm not asking you to, I'm just asking you for a tennis court that we could use so we don't have to drive all over the place.
Vernon Township is a very big town. Even
How
if
many
you-
people are in town?
Well, just let me finish for a second. If Vernon Township's a very big town, we're not going to put it in a place that you don't have to drive all over for it either.
Well, all I
What
know
I'm
is
saying, Mr.
you have
Greenblatt.
16,000 people here. You deserve 1 tennis court. The Spa used to have 2 outdoor tennis courts. My other choice is to pay $40 an hour at the Spa, and that's a little ridiculous. That's a lot of money. I'm not in that kind of position, or, you know, we split it, but it's still $40. So that's my sad story. Hopefully someone will get, you want my phone number? Someone can get back to me.
You can leave it with the mayor's office.
I'll call it in tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening. Jesse Palladini, Sunset Ridge. I left the last council meeting really pretty disgusted. And a lot of people talk to me, and I speak with a lot of different people, and I learned that a number of other people felt the same as I did after the last meeting. I'm here tonight to ask this council, and I'm not going to name any names, but I'm going to ask this council to act a little bit more civil and have a little bit more decorum than what was demonstrated at the last meeting. I'm talking about mocking, laughing, smirking, making faces, interrupting other council members. You know, I used to go to the Hardiston Township Council meeting for about 10 years when I worked as a journalist. And I was always impressed by how civil and courteous they were at their council meeting. Well, I was very surprised to learn from individual council members that the people, and this was back then, I'm not talking about now, I was very surprised to learn that they virtually hated each other. You'd never know it by the courtesy and the protocol that they demonstrated at their council meetings. Now, we have a room full of young people here tonight, and I'm not sure why they're here, but probably part of the reason is so that they could see their local government process. Let's set a good example, please. Let's stop the smirking, the laughing, the interrupting, the mocking. I don't know if those of you who do that are not aware of what you look like, but it looks terrible. So please, have a little bit of dignity and a little bit of decorum, and give a little integrity to the position to which you were elected. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to come forward?
Good evening, Gary Martinson. Mr. Wetzel, read about you in the paper. Congratulations, and good to see you in such great health and stuff. And
Thank you.
being a forerunner of a new process. We just had a recent election, and I've been here before and talking about how I think there's been some issues that we really need to put to the public in question. And I just want to bring up to you, some of you say that you were elected, so now it's up to you. Well, in Northvale, the voters had a question on whether they wanted a new library or not. In Glen Rock, there was a proposal question for a $3 million turf field, whether or not they should spend money on that. In Tenafly, there were plans for an expanded nature center. They allowed the people to vote on that. Now, some of these, in Wantage there were 2 questions, some of these were not necessarily binding agreements or questions, but what they were was finding out from the people on issues like this that are this big what the people think. Because we travel in circles, and we may not be traveling in a big enough circle to really know what the majority of people think. Especially, I think, drives it home is the fact that the state had an open space question on it, open space trust funds. Additionally, the Montville, the township of Montville, had an open space question. So the township adopted an ordinance amending the open space trust funds, and then they listed the provisions that they were going to amend. I found that interesting. Morris County, the county, should the county amend its open space, recreation, floodplains, historic preservation, trust funds development? And this one was for allowing the use of previously collected funds to be used on trail development. So even for that, they put the question to the voters. And Jefferson Township, and this one I found interesting based on the fact that our township code was amended. Jefferson Township put to the voters, shall the township amend Chapter 54 of the Township Municipal Code? And then they listed the specifics of it. I'm sorry, but I think there's a lot of questions. Open space, that 30-year tax thing, you really should be sending to the voters. I think sometimes we vote, it was stated, you know, you got voted, so you're up there. Yes, you're up there to make decisions. One of those decisions is sending some of these really important things, which other townships also thought were important, to the voters to at least see how they feel. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to come forward? Seeing that there are no other members of the public wishing to come forward, may I have a motion to close the floor to public comments?
Moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kadesh. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very briefly this evening, I would like to start out by informing the council that we have recently been informed by Blue Cross Blue Shield, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, that we will be, in fact, experiencing a significant increase in our premium this year. It's somewhere in the range, we don't have a definite final number, but it's somewhere in the range of 20%. 20% on a $3.5 million premium, as you can well do your math, is somewhere close to between $600,000 and $700,000 in increase.
That's an increase.
Increase. Part of that increase is due to Obamacare. As you know, last year we paid the first federal tax on our health insurance programs. This is the second year of it. It's gone up again. But the majority of that increase is due to our experience with our employees. Like Vernon Township, our population of retirees is growing significantly. At present, because of contractual agreements, I'm sure you all are aware, we have 119 employees. We have 439 retirees that we provide health insurance to. So as the age increases, so does the need for medical care. We also have some significant situations with individual employees that have driven the cost of medical care up. So as we were approaching the point in time where the Financial Committee felt as though we were pretty close to being able to begin to share with you our plans for 2015, I want to report to the Council that we are going to back up just a little bit here, rethink, rework, and it'll be a little longer before we bring it forward to you, but I wanted you to be aware. If you look at $600,000 to $650,000, you're talking about 3 tax points, which is significant, as you well know. Secondly, I would like to report to the Council that this past week, a meeting was held between Vernon Township and the United Water Company. Myself, Mr. Urson, and Mr. Stoner, our engineer, met with the principals and engineers from United Water. The primary reason for that meeting was to begin to, or I shouldn't say begin to, but to hammer out the final agreements concerning bringing water to the town center. As it turns out, because of the way the United Water's catchment area for service is laid out, part of the town center, as many of you know, is in their area, and a larger part of it is not. And therefore, we really had to bifurcate our agreement. And as it stands right now, we will be bringing, United Water will be bringing water to the section of town center that will support the new CVS that's gained approval from the Land Use Board. It also will make water available along Route 94 to what was the Florist Shop and the Highlands Bank, and as well some of the residencies across the street, one in particular which has a polluted well. The United Water Company will be using and purchasing from Vernon Township part of the pipes that we laid when we put the sewer in. That part which lies in their catchment area, that which they'll be using in the spring of 2015. Now, a couple of things for clarification. While we are in the process of doing it piecemeal, unfortunately, the time will be taken by United Water to upgrade their supply, and until that happens, there will not be water in the fire hydrants. There will be water for consumption, sprinkling purposes, and other purposes, but the fire hydrants will not initially be charged. That will happen down the road, so it's going to take some planning on our part. In addition to that, as you well know, we have a need for water here in the building. Unfortunately, the catchment service area for United Water ends at the corner of Church Street and Omega Drive, which means that we don't really fall into it, and in order for us to partake of having central water to the town municipal building, one of two things that have to happen: either a BPU application by United Water, which is a long and expensive process, or the declaration of an emergency and asking for a special approval from BPU and DEP. We're presently looking at what the best way for Vernon Township to proceed is. We'll be talking more about that in the future, but I wanted the council to know what has taken place there. You also will be voting a little later on this evening on a transfer of funds for the purpose of buying some fire equipment. I would like to just point out to you that you have a very thorough explanation. You will recall that last fall, or I should say, excuse me, this past spring, I made the council aware that there were some problems with the grant that we had received from FEMA in terms of the radios that had been purchased. Through the efforts of Elke Yetter, our CFO, and Mr. Bill Zuckerman, our business administrator, if you read their report, you will see that a tremendous amount of work was done. The township at this point in time is not in jeopardy of having to return any of the grant money, but rather FEMA has agreed to allow us to I guess it's called decertify the original part of the grant and to use the funds for other fire equipment. And if you recall, in the budget for 2014 and proposed for 2015, there was money allotted for new turnout gear for the fire companies. Make a long story short, in essence, what will happen is the FEMA grant money will be used for new turnout gear for the fire companies, new self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire companies, upgrading of other equipment that falls under the purview of the grant, and the money that we were going to use to buy that equipment out of our bond we'll use to pay for the radios that we received. We brought in radio specialists. We called in our insurance companies and took a look at the entire situation legally. In fact, I think that we all owe a debt of gratitude to Elke and to Bill. Their efforts have saved us a tremendous amount of money, and in fact, the radio systems are working very well. Our fire company and emergency services did not want to give it up. I wanted to share it with you in public. I would ask that you, in fact, abide by the comments that are on the report. It is still in a contractual situation, so I'd appreciate it if it would stay within the purview of the governing body until such time as those contracts are brought forward to the council, signed and made public. And lastly, you will recall that 2 meetings ago, I reported to the council that we had set up an administrative financial committee made up of Elke, Bill, and myself. Its purpose was, had several purposes. Obviously, creation of the budget, working on that with the department heads and the like. And you will recall that at that time I also mentioned that we would be living with the statute and the decision that was handed down by Judge Wiesenbeck in terms of whether or not Vernon would continue with its performance review and performance bonuses. A review of the judge's decision indicates that we need a 5-member committee to review the work that has been done in-house. And just to bring you up to speed on that, all non-union employees who are eligible to participate in a performance award program have in fact gone through a review, a written review, as has been the case for the last 3 years. They have sat with their department head or their division head or their immediate supervisor for that review. The supervisor filled out the evaluation form, as did the employee. A conversation of strengths and weaknesses and objectives and the like was taken into account. That process has been completed, and I'm asking this evening that the council, that you gentlemen and members nominate and name 2 of you to join that finance committee so that in fact we can review the work that has been done and make decisions as to performance bonuses. I know that there's some question as to whether or not it needs to be done by the council. Is it administrative? It doesn't matter to me how nominated or named members who would be willing to work with us. Is our intent or our objective to bring a resolution forward at the next meeting that will, in fact, spell out clearly the responsibility of that particular body, and then the first meeting in December, if in fact there are going to be bonuses awarded to employees, we will bring it forward at that meeting for a vote.
Okay. This would be just like any other subcommittee. So the last time around, I had asked, I believe it's Councilmember Kadish and Murphy to be on the liaison committee for the Board of Education. I think it's my turn to step forward. I'll serve as a member of this, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Wetzel, would you join me?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Okay, we'll put that in the form of a resolution for consideration at the second meeting in November. We will then meet between then and the first meeting in December. The hard legwork has been done, but the 5 of us will sit and review them and come to some decisions as to what the result is going to be. I do want to point out, though, remember my first comments. We're dealing with a particularly large, unexpected increase in Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm not sure whether or not it won't negate the ability to do what we're talking about doing, but nonetheless, I think it's time for us to proceed. And if our decision is no bonus, then that's our decision. But at least we will have in place the mechanism, not only for this year, but for future years. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, the minutes for the October 16th meeting. We have a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of October 16th, 2014.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Wetzel.
Excuse me, I have a correction on
Okay.
the, I mentioned to Lauren on page 3, actually it was about the Finance Committee, where I asked if I was discussing bonuses, not raises. And just so that one word from raises to bonuses.
What page, Gene?
Page 3.
I also have a correction, I believe. Mayor Murata indicated that the court had directed the township to have a finance committee, which would be compromised. It should be comprised or composed.
Oh, it says compromised?
Oh, yes, I thought it was an interesting slip there.
Yeah, it shouldn't be compromised, that's for sure. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan and Jean. With those changes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, for the consent agenda this evening, Resolution 14-183, authorizing a refund of the 2011 tax overpayment, Block 18801, Lot 14C003, as a result of a successful tax appeal by the property owner for taxes paid on the listed property. The taxes on this property were reduced, creating an overpayment. This resolution authorizes the refund of those overpayments for 2012. Resolution 14-184, authorizing an application and execution of the 2014 Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over grant administered by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The township would like to apply for the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over grant. This resolution authorizes the application and the township's match for reimbursement of up to $7,500. Resolution 14-185, approving an active volunteer fireman for membership in the New Jersey State Firemen's Association. Greg Kakashi, what is that? Am I right?
That's what it says.
Is an active firefighter in Vernon Township. This resolution authorizes him to join the state association. Resolution 14-186, a memorandum of the agreement between the Township of Vernon and the Vernon Township Municipal Utility Authority. The township originally made an agreement with the MUA regarding various obligations in November of 2011. There has been some modification to the agreement, and the same was adopted by the Vernon MUA on October 9, 2014. This resolution mirrors the resolution approved by the MUA so that both parties will be operating from the same agreement. Resolution 14-187, Chapter 159, resolution requesting approval of revenue and appropriation amending the 2014 budget as a revenue and appropriation of $10,233.50. The Department of Human Services has changed the reporting period for the Municipal Alliance grant funding, and such the township has received an additional award of $10,233.50. This resolution authorizes the acceptance of these funds into the budget and their appropriation. Resolution 14-188, authorizing the cancellation of taxes for a total disabled veteran. In 2010, Mr. Malkowitz was declared a total disabled veteran. Therefore, as of that time, his property is exempt from taxation. This resolution authorizes the cancellation of taxes for Mr. Malkowitz's property for 2014. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions 14-183 through 14-188?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kadesh. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Lynch?
Yes, except for resolution 14-185, which I must abstain. Okay, ordinance, the first reading of a proposed ordinance, an ordinance providing the acquisition of new and additional equipment by the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating $83,000, therefore constituting proceeds of obligations of the township heretofore issued. Ordinance 1420 allows the township to reassign $83,000 in funds that were dedicated by Ordinance 1412 to a sewer connection fee for the DPW building to the purchase of fire department equipment, as the DPW is not able to be added to the sewer system at this time as the lines are not available. May I have a motion to introduce this ordinance 1420 with public hearing to be held on November 24th?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second that.
Second by Councilmember Kadesh.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Please call roll.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Lynch?
I must abstain.
Carries to introduce ordinance 1420 with the public hearing to be held on November 24th.
Okay, council appointments. May I have a motion to appoint Edward Snook to the vacant seat on the Vernon MUA as alternate number 1, which will expire on February 10th, 2016.
Move.
Motion made by Councilmember Kadesh. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Rizzuto. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Ed. Don't get excited.
Welcome to the world of abuse. Welcome to the world of abuse.
Thank you very much for stepping forward, Ed. Okay, council comments, Councilmember Murphy?
Question I have on the, or actually just a comment, really. In the paper this week, the notice of sale for non-payment of taxes, and I just wanted to mention that, I guess the TAC member we went through where we voted on, the vote was taken for the appraisers, and it was listed that it was block 8, I think it was block 8, oh no, I'm sorry, block 82, lot 8. And it's just for a notation that the tax collector still has it also listed as lot 8 and 801, because I believe the tax assessor said that those lots were combined. So I'm just mentioning that on this tax collection notice, it's still showing the separate lots, just as a matter of record keeping within the township, because I think lot 801 was in fact the lake portion of it. So that's one thing. I wanted to mention that myself and actually Lauren, on October 24th, we were at the Schools for Teacher for a Day. I was actually at Rolling Hills, and I spent the morning with Mrs. Ulrich's art class. That was very interesting. And the afternoon I spent with Mrs. Hordice. I got to experience emergency bus evacuation, a fire drill, a whole bunch of different activities, so it was interesting. And Lauren was actually at Walnut Ridge. She was a librarian that day, so yeah, she got to have fun over at the library with even the younger kids. A couple other notices. I did receive, I don't know if anybody else has, for the Chamber of Commerce, this Wednesday they're having a, I guess it's the 12th, they're having a seminar downstairs, a free fraud prevention. Starts at 6:30 as a meet and greet, and between 7 and 8 is the presentation. So even the public, everyone's invited. So that was a notice that came out. Also, Highlands Florist, I don't know if you noticed that they are having a grand opening on the 14th and 15th. They moved to 3 Church Street, so they're having that. And a couple other things, let's see. And I'm not sure if anybody's actually noticed the article today in the Herald where it said that the millennials are moving out of Sussex County. That was a very interesting point that was brought up, and I think when we were at that meeting a couple weeks ago, Senator Oroho brought some of those points up. And there's actually a meeting that's going to be in Sussex County right before the freeholders meeting. I think that might also be on Wednesday, because they'll actually be presenting, giving information, probably for about a half hour, on exactly what is happening in Sussex County. So that's at 4:30 Wednesday at the County Administrative Building at 1 Spring Street. I believe that that'll probably be a very interesting presentation to hear, to see exactly what's going on. And lastly, I did actually take a look at the last segment of Vernon Vibes, and as I had mentioned once before about the mayor giving his view of what goes on at the council meetings, when he expressed information about the fireworks and the fact that the council voted for the fireworks, he referred that he would have liked to have seen a unanimous vote in providing fireworks to the public, but unfortunately there are a couple Grinches on the council. So with the exception, I believe Mr. Lynch abstained, or yes, abstained, or you, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Lynch was absent, Mr. Kadesh abstained. Just wanted to make note that, again, I believe there should be a disclaimer that that show is your view and not exactly what is happening at the council meetings. That's all I have.
Councilmember Kadesh.
No comment.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes. I saw the article, and Mrs. Murphy kind of stole a little bit of my thunder on this, but I think if you recall back a couple of years, 2.5 years ago, good friend, previous councilman, Ed Dunn, and I presented to the council and to the audience at large a PowerPoint presentation outlining essentially what is pointed out in this particular article. And I think what the essence of this article is, it's not so much of a dollars and cents situation, although it's very important. It's a very compelling factor because of price of transportation for gas and taxes and so forth. But indeed, it's a cultural shift. It's no longer do people want to be saddled with a home surrounding lawn, and if they happen to live in places like Highland Lakes or where there's a lot of trees, spending the next, past 3 weeks and next 2 weeks picking up leaves. They just want to live and play right near where they work. And I think if you read the article, you'll find that that is essentially the comments that were made by the two companies. One was from Rutgers University, actually the Blaustein School, and then Econosult Solutions, McCormick Taylor and Mercer Planning Associates. So both of these companies have come to a similar decision. And it was interesting, and I would hope that our friends at the Board of Education would take notice of this, because they point out that the school population declined 21%, more than double that of any of the other 13 northern counties, and that Sussex County's enrollment decline accounted for 26% of the net decline in the 13-county region, with almost 6,000 fewer students within that particular period. And that particular period was 2005 through 2012. Well, the numbers for that particular period were 1,467 students in terms of a decline. We had an enrollment of 5,269, and it was reduced to 3,802. That represented about 25% of the total reduction in student population within the county came from Vernon Township. And if you were to go back a little bit further, if you were to go back to 2001, where we had 5,502, 5,502 students, to now, you're looking at 3,330, you're looking at over 2,200 students. And that is a very significant difference and a very substantial drop in the enrollment decline. And I think what is important is that for those that would say, listen, we are waiting for the trend to reverse itself, I don't think that's going to happen. It's probably not going to happen in my very short lifetime that's left, nor in an extended lifetime for some of our younger residents. It's because of that cultural shift. Now, I think it's worth pointing out that the council has taken steps to try and introduce a concept, and we even pointed out by the utilization of the extension of cable readiness for the Atlantic Health System, which could be again projected into various other parts of the community, that would allow industry to come in utilizing digital needs such as, for computers, and hopefully we could possibly see an influx, or at least a start, a nascent start to an industry whereby people might be able to come to the city, come to Vernon, live here, work on this type of a program for employment, which doesn't require an awful lot of, backup, support, and yet they would have the availability of working and playing with golf, skiing, in this particular area while living here. So I think it's important to note that the meeting that's going to be held at 4:30 is I consider it to be a very, very important meeting. You not only have one, but two groups that are going to be reporting on this to the freeholders. And I commend the freeholders for commissioning these studies because it's necessary for them to use this information for their planning. And certainly as a council, we've made use of the information in terms of what the Board of Education provided for us. And I think the comments that we've made and the moves that we have made in terms of encouraging the availability of agritourism, and in this case, we sponsored the ordinance for a pilot program, bespeaks the necessity of addressing what's happening to a declining enrollment and a declining population. So, that being my words, thank you very much.
Councilmember Wetzel?
I just have one thing to say to the veterans out there. Welcome home.
Say the same thing. My brother was in the service in the first Persian Gulf War. My father was in Korea, and cherish the fact that I come from a family that knew what it was like to dare to take the oath and to serve the country. And I respect them and love them dearly for it. As you are aware, we are nearing the end of the year, and the township needs to set a time and date for its annual reorganization meeting. In the past several years, 2011, 2012, and 2013, the township's annual reorganization meeting has been held at the time of the Monday meeting, January 3rd, 2011, January 3rd, 2012, January 7th, 2013, at 7 and or 7:30 was the time to attend. In 2014, the reorganization was held on New Year's Day, okay, holiday. I would like to ask the council if they have a preference for the day of the reorganization. Now, mind you, the important things to remember about New Year's Day is the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, and the Rose Bowl Parade are all on that day. But state statute does say it cannot be held any earlier than noon. So, what is the...
For me, the tradition is 12 o'clock noon on
I go along
New Year's
with
Day.
Councilman Kadish on that.
Councilman Kadish, would you like to make that in the form
I'd
of
be
a motion?
happy to make that a motion.
Okay.
I'll make
Second
that
that.
motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Kadish and seconded by Councilmember Rizzuto. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel? Council President?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes. Unanimous.
So that's a Thursday.
The Thursday, yeah.
And may I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Rizzuto. Can I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Wetzel. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Aye.